Hello there, it's your pals from Beyond the Bench barging in to tell you about the newest creation from our sponsor, Knack Bags. If you're looking for a stylish new bag to accompany you for every trip to the beach, water park, mountain climb, or DMV visit, the Knack Sling Bag is the one you need.
Just like its bigger siblings, the Knack Sling Bag is built tough, impossibly stylish, and endlessly expandable for all your storage needs, but a third the weight and half the price. It's also available in 3 different colors, so you can look your best without getting sand in unpleasant places.
Just follow the link in the description to get yours today with free shipping on every order.
If you get your Knack Sling Bag, don't forget to post a picture of it on social media and tag us at Beyond the Bench 1 so we can see the amazing things you do with it.
Thank you to our friends at Knack Bags for sponsoring this episode. This is Beyond the Bench with Nick Morgasen and Nick Fodera. A look at sports and pop culture from beyond common sense. The show that constantly goes off the rails and might never get back on. When you don't belong, you're a bench warmer. On this show, there's no riding the bench. This is Beyond the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Beyond the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network, presented by Knack Bags, episode 38. For Nick Fodera, I'm Nick Morgasen. It's been a long couple weeks.
Yes, it has. Where I'm dealing with injuries to certain appendages of my body. Actually, it's just my ears. Stop imagining things, you pervert.
Stop poking your ears with Q-tips.
But we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot of weird stuff to talk about. But before we get to that, we want to make sure you follow us at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Beyond the Bench 1. You can also follow us on Twitter, the network itself, at ETB Network. You can follow us on the Twitter handles. You can see that across the screen. And as always, this episode is sponsored by our good friends at Knack Bags. Now, you can go to knackbags.com to get yourself a Knack Sling Bag, as well as the amazing, wonderful, sleek, compact Knack Bag that Nick has as an example here. So when you go to Knack Bags and get your Knack Bag today, you will get free shipping. And everybody likes free shipping. Because what kind of life is it?
It's a one-bag life.
Exactly.
Make sure you go and use our code in the description. And like Nick said, we'll get free shipping. All right, Nick. So on this episode 38, we have a lot to get into. Some very controversial, some very stupidly funny. And
it's usually the line we straddle on this show. It's like we're controversial and so kind of stupid, it's almost profound.
Right. And, well, would you say that the story of Rudy getting tapped in the back is the bar?
Yeah, if that's where the bar is, we're just either hopping over it or limboing under it.
Well, I know right off the bat, and you know what? Usually I do a story rundown, but I want to save this and do it by surprise. Some of these were really funny this week.
Yeah.
So let's get Nick pissed off right off the bat.
Yeah.
Elon Musk terminates deal with Twitter, and now we have lawsuits.
Gee, that thing I told you would happen when it went through actually happened. Wow, it's like everybody who told you this was all bullshit was right, and I'm not just talking about me, because I wasn't the only one. People much smarter than me and making much more money than I am, I already made this distinction. And ladies and gentlemen, so context is necessary. For those of you who don't know, have been willfully blind to this, Elon Musk decided to have himself a big fat midlife crisis and spend $44 billion.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. I don't want to say allegedly because it's not a crime, but...
Well, the deal was agreed to, though, technically.
The deal was it was a handshake agreement.
No, I think he signed paperwork.
Did he sign paperwork?
Well, because now they're claiming it's a breach of the merger agreement.
Yeah, well, he wanted to buy Twitter. He bought it for he expressed interest in buying it. Is that better?
It's not expressed interest. He agreed to buy it.
He agreed to buy it for $44 billion, and it was pointed out by a lot of people that follow his madness, that there's no way he's going to go through with this. This is just a way to get Tesla stock up before the inevitable crash, because nobody actually wants him to own anything for an extended period of time.
He owns a lot of companies.
Yeah.
We talked about him last week. Do you remember?
We talked about him last week. So now he's backing out, saying, "LOL, JK. I was just kidding. I was just kidding. I didn't mean it.
Me no speak English."
No hablo inglés, because apparently there's a bot problem that Twitter didn't tell him, that he's saying that Twitter didn't tell him about.
Now,
fake accounts, and it's like,
let's point out something obvious. He is right in a sense that there is a bot problem and there's a fake account problem, but that's not just on Twitter. That's on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Name your new social media platform 10 years from now, which will be a problem on. So technically, he's right.
Blur and Go.
What?
Blur and Go. That's what it'll be 10 minutes from now. That's what it'll be 10 years from now.
But I do agree with him that there is a problem with bots and spam on Twitter. He's not wrong. But at the same time, when you sign a deal, allegedly, supposedly, for $44 billion, and on top of it, the escape clause, I guess is what they technically call it, was $1 billion if he pulled out of the deal.
Meaning he would have to pay Twitter executives $1 billion if he decided not to go through with the sale. So, that being the case, Twitter's executive, Twitter, the company itself, is now suing him for, I think, the amount he was going to buy Twitter for.
They want him to hold up his end of the agreement.
They want this deal to go through. Because, the one thing the Twitter executives like more than Twitter is $44 billion. So, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, I don't know why all these right-wingers and all these weirdos that defend him were thinking that Elon Musk is going to take control of Twitter and finally bring free speech back to a terrible social media platform.
Well, let's talk about the language of the letter that he wrote to Twitter, essentially, and the lawyers wrote. So Elon Musk told Twitter last Friday that he's terminating his proposed acquisition of the social media company, arguing in a letter that the company was in breach of the merger agreement. Musk's letter said he wants out of the deal because Twitter is in material breach of multiple provisions of that agreement, appears to have made false and misleading representations upon which Mr. Musk relied when entering into the merger agreement, and is likely to suffer a company material adverse effect, as that term is defined in the merger agreement.
You know what this is? I'll tell you what this is. This is the Twitter executives got caught up in, because they got caught up in the whirling tsunami of whatever the hell it is that Elon Musk actually is, realized it halfway through, and then want to play it off like he was, and then want to play it off like he's the only idiot in this situation.
Yeah, but here's the issue, okay? And I understand.
Why would you fall for that? Of course he wasn't going to do it.
That's not true. I think he was going to do it. First of all, $44 billion to him is nothing.
You really think he was going to do it?
Nick.
You really thought he was going to do it? You're telling me that this wasn't You're telling me that this wasn't all a calculated ploy,
Nick,
just to get his Tesla stock and just keep his name in the news?
Nick,
because he wants to distract from unionization efforts at Tesla?
Nick, there's massive legal situations with this. You don't bullshit about this.
Yes, smart people don't bullshit, but Elon is not really that.
But Nick, it's $44 billion. I don't care who you are. $44 billion is an astronomical amount of money.
Yes, which is why men like him need to be exceedingly careful where they spend it. He obviously is not.
And
He's spending it on every single cockamamie scheme and harebrained idea he can think of.
Now, the other thing is, I have Twitter's back on part of this because Elon is now pointing out all the flaws of Twitter. He's now tanking the stock.
Yes, and he's deliberately doing that.
I don't know if he's
out of the deal to tank the stock.
I don't know if he's deliberately trying to tank the stock. We can't say that because we don't know. But what I would say is he is right, and I'll say it again. He is right from the standpoint is that there's a spam and a bot problem on Twitter. There is. We see fake Twitter accounts all the time. Would you agree with me?
Yes, we do.
So, and there's more, in my opinion, I see more fake accounts. Sometimes I think I see a 3 or 4 to 1 ratio of fake accounts to real ones like we have.
And he thinks there's a bias against conservatives.
Well, that one, I don't.
On Twitter, which is basically not true.
I'm trying to stay away from the political angle of it, but my point is he's wrong for stepping out after signing an agreement because technically, and we're not contract lawyers, so we're not 100% up on this. But last time I checked, when you sign a contract with somebody,
you have to honor the terms of that contract.
It's not only that. Twitter has the right to say, listen, bozo, you signed our agreement. You have to pay up if that's the case.
If that's the case. But my thing is, these Twitter executives really should have been smarter than that. I mean, this is a guy who...
But it's not their fault. They agreed to the deal in agreement. That's the words they're using.
If you had any inkling that he wasn't going to follow through with this, you shouldn't have gone through with it.
That's what the exit clause was for $1 billion.
But that's just the thing. He could say he somehow has this ability to attract attention to the dumbest ideas ever. I'm gonna build a high-speed railway in the middle of the fucking Nevada desert. He could say, you know how you always say, I'm gonna dig a hole to China? He could actually say, I'm actually going to be the first person in the world to dig a hole to China. And there will be somebody lining up with $120 billion to give him.
Okay, he could say whatever he wants. And we hear this all the time. People in the world of technology who think that they know better than everybody else. Bill Gates comes to mind there. With these, I saw a story that he had like these healthy supermarkets or whatever, and someone allegedly burned it up in a foreign country.
And of course, it's because it's all about the next harebrained scheme. Because you can't just be content with being rich. You have to prove that you are smarter and 5 steps ahead of every single person you.
Are you new here?
All the time.
Are you new here? But billionaires trying to be richer.
But it's not just about being richer. It's not just about sitting on your ass and accruing wealth. There are plenty of people that don't make headlines that do that. I'm talking about the constant need for attention. Oh. Look at me, I'm rich.
I wouldn't say Elon Musk sits on his ass for his money. I actually think he moves around for his money a lot.
But that's exactly it. All he had to do, he could have just sat on his ass and accrued wealth. But
no, what I'm saying is, he
decides to sit on his he decides to do this dog and pony show because he likes the attention.
Well, most billionaires do. Look at Mark Cuban.
Case in point. At least he's actually doing something good with the money and attention he's spending and the attention he's getting.
I mean, I'll give him credit because we did this story months ago where he came up with the medical business where he was making medicine cheaper for people who could actually afford their medicine. So I'll give him that. But
I'll give him that credit.
But Elon Musk is out for the attention. I mean, did you see that after like everything fell through that his Twitter account was suspended temporarily?
Yes, Twitter account was suspended, and after he went after Trump took a shot at him at took a shot at him on
Getter.
On Truth Social.
Oh well, either Getter or Truth Social, whatever those right-wing political platforms are. But here's some quotes from the Twitter board. So, quote, the Twitter board is committed to closing the transaction on the price and terms agreed upon. So, before I finish the rest of the quote, there's your answer. They agreed to terms.
So you're going to give us our $44 billion or else.
So then it goes on to say, I'll start from here. The Twitter board is committed to closing the transaction on the price and terms agreed upon with Mr. Musk and plans to pursue legal action to encore the merger agreement. We are confident we will prevail in the Delaware Court of Chancery. Brett Taylor, chair of Twitter board, said on Friday. Specifically, Musk once again said that Twitter did not provide enough information about its bot and spam accounts on the platform and did not give Musk and his team enough data to conduct their own analysis. Well, now this brings something to mind. If you didn't have enough information, why did you sign the agreement?
Exactly. If you did not do your due diligence, why did you go through with this?
My favorite part is that I can think of something down more on our level that we can compare this to. Insurance. When we go to find an insurance provider that we're looking for, do we just sign with the first one that we pick, or do we go through multiple options until we find the one we want?
We go through multiple options. We do our research.
So that's bringing it more down to our level, just so it's an understandable point that we investigate. We figure out what works best for us. Elon, because he's so effing rich, he basically just said, I'll just throw money at this and hope it works. Right?
Oh, God.
And here's what I was saying earlier. Per the deal, Musk may also be on the hook to pay $1 billion breakup fee for walking away from the takeover. I didn't know that's what it was called. Breakup fee? What is this, a relationship?
Yeah. They get half of everything.
Oh,
God.
And Twitter got destroyed on the stock market. I mean, so it says the Musk decision on Friday was called, quote, a disaster scenario for Twitter, and predicted that the shares of the company would open in the $25 to $30 range Monday morning, saying that the street is weary of any court battle. Shares of Twitter were down 7% in extended hours trading Friday after having opened at $37.51. So, major problems for Twitter. Major. And who would have thought Elon was going to say, congratulations, Twitter, you played yourself? Did you ever think that was going to happen?
Oh, God. No, I didn't. No, I did not.
All right, let's move on. Something that was a little, I guess, if you want to call funny to start the show. This is a little more serious. Brittney Griner's wife calls for a release alongside WNBA and Al Sharpton. Now, this story is just getting worse and worse and worse in the headlines.
Yes, because we've been following this story for a couple of months, but it really does seem like the longer this goes on, the worse it's going to get if they don't bring her home.
And I brought this up on Empty the Bench a couple days ago, but I was talking about Macy Gray, the band that went on the Today Show.
Yeah.
And they told the drummer, who was wearing a Free Brittney Griner shirt, like everybody else,
the shirt, because apparently it's political to advocate for the release of Brittney Griner from a Russian fucking prison.
So they told the drummer, turn your shirt inside out. You can't show that. Now, and I said this to Nick, and I'll say it to you here because we can have this discussion. Does that seem like they're agreeing with what Russia's doing?
It is tantamount to that because, if you're not talking about it, if you're not advocating for it, it's like somebody having a stand up to cancer t-shirt on, and then NBC saying, you know what, we don't want to offend cancer. Why don't you just turn the shirt inside out? I
just don't understand. Like, this is a problem. Like, and most people,
it's her being used, like I keep telling you,
political football.
This is her being used as a political football, like this always was going to turn out, because it's not about Brittney Griner, not to the people in charge. It's about everybody else. It's about the symbolism, and you know who they don't give a shit about? Brittney Griner.
Which is insane, and most people who don't pay attention to this, I mean, you and I know about it from the sports world. The WNBA All-Star Game was over the past week, and they all wore Free Brittney Griner shirts, and they had the 42s on in the warm-ups, and her wife, Brittney Griner's wife, was sitting in the front row, and they did all this advocation, and when Al Sharpton is involved, some
serious shit is about to hit the fan. Which, again, what the hell is the State Department waiting for?
Well, I think I said it on Empty the Bench that Bill Richardson, the former governor who negotiated some of the military militia that was trapped in Russia.
Yes, but there are people at the State Department who've been doing this for 20, 30, even 40 years about negotiating for release of political prisoners. You're telling me, and you're dragging your feet just because it's Brittney Griner?
Well, I could go one step further and say LeBron totally fucked this up too.
I understand that what he's referring to is the tweet from LeBron saying that if I was Brittney Griner, I wouldn't. Once you get out, I wouldn't want to go back to the U.S. Was that the gist of it?
Yes. The way I look at it, basically, LeBron said you should just stay in Russia and not come back to the United States. Essentially,
which I understand the sentiment. It's like, you're getting frustrated at the State Department for dragging their feet, but I don't know if you read the room a little bit, Ron.
And first of all,
read the room.
And I said this, and I'll say it again here. LeBron's making $41 million.
Yes,
LeBron
she was making 25% of that. She wouldn't need to be in Russia.
LeBron is a fucking billionaire. I think he was the first billionaire in the NBA, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So when I got annoyed and I went on social media and I basically said, "Hey, LeBron, leave the NBA behind, leave all the money behind, leave your business deals behind, leave your TV shows behind, and go live in Russia."
Do you want to swap places?
Essentially, I don't. It's weird. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm befuddled. This situation is bad. Get her out of Russia. It's been, 300 days? It feels like? Not 300 days, but 150 days?
It's been a long time. Longer than it should be.
Now, you know my thoughts on the stupidity of what she did partially, which was bringing the drugs.
Yes, but we've gone way beyond that.
I agree with you. But I'm just saying, this all could have been avoided if she didn't bring the hashish oil and the cartridges in her bag.
And if she was paid more, she wouldn't be in Russia. So.
Okay, but you know my thoughts on that. That technically she's making $225,000 a year. You know how you and I would kill to make $225,000 a year.
Yes.
That's my
point.
What?
How hard she works and what she does to
not denying that. Not denying that. First of all athletes work hard, or at least I hope they work hard, but because they make a lot of fucking money. But it's hard for me to 100% say that someone making $225,000 is not. I don't know what's the best word to say for it.
Is not in the poorhouse.
Right. That's it. That's the only point I was making. I'm not saying that she's being held captive. She's being held captive as a political prisoner. That's a fact. And Russia is like rubbing it in and saying, "Ha ha, we got one of you. What are you going to do now?" That's what they're doing, right? Would you agree with me?
I mean, I do. I mean, at a certain point, look, I don't. She shouldn't have been there in the first place. Let's start there.
Well, and you and I had this discussion too. When you're making $225,000, and no, I'm not reaching into her pocket when I make this next statement, but you can make a comfortable living and live a great living on $225,000.
You can, but you know what? I really don't. I really think for being the face of the WNBA, they really need to be paid more.
Well, that's the WNBA's fault, though.
And that's the WNBA's fault. So I agree. So I agree with you that yes, she did make a mistake, but it's a small mistake compared to what this has turned into.
They should have said.
And you know what? The real fault is with the WNBA itself.
I would have been fine if they had said, "All right, well, you brought the not drugs. I should say you brought in the hash oil in. We'll slap you on the wrist. We'll hold you for 30 days and then let you go." I would have been okay with that. Okay, because again, when you leave the country, what did I tell you? The laws are different out of the U.S.
Yes, but you know what?
I'm not saying it's right. Not saying it's right, but I'm saying that. and you know this too. You're smart. I'm smart. We get this. Okay. The laws are much stricter outside the U.S. wherever you go. So if you're dumb enough to bring drugs into another country, you're risking your freedom. Right?
Again, I'm not inclined to blame her.
I'm not, again, after the 30 days is like what I said, if they wanted to just make a case out of it for 30 days and be done, I would have said, okay, fine. But now that you're at 150 plus days, you're turning it into a shit show, a circus. It is a circus. It's a political circus. And the president's not doing anything to get her out. And this whole thing, and we talked about it last week also, that Biden and her are exchanging letters. Exchanging letters is not getting her out. Right? Tell me what the letters are doing.
I mean, you would think the letters are putting more pressure, but you know what? It has to come from the president itself. It has to. He has to be the one to make these decisions, and you can't drag your feet anymore. You can't. You can't.
And by the way, just to go back one last point, we'll move on here, is that Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner of the WNBA, can make this change. Step this up and change what needs to be done to get these female athletes paid more money. Instead of saying, well, we don't make as much as the NBA, so we can't afford to pay our players what the NBA players make. So what? Figure it out. Make more money. These female athletes deserve more. Kathy Engelbert is a quack as a commissioner.
No, she's just bad at her job. That's the difference. She's not a quack. She's just bad at her job.
She's as dumb as a box of rocks.
Because this is one of the worst things that could happen to a player, and it happened on your watch.
I mean, she's not the only one that goes to Russia and other countries.
And it won't be. And I hope to God it's the last time, but I'm expecting that it won't.
And you know what it is? And I watched a ESPN documentary of one of the 30 for 30s where they talked about how Brittney Griner and other athletes go to Russia and China and Japan and all these countries. You know why? Because they're getting paid 3 to 4 times what they're making in the WNBA.
Exactly.
What does that tell you?
They need more money. All right, moving on.
All right. So from bad to confusing. R. Kelly engaged?
So I sit here and cross my arms because I am kind of stupefied at this story.
Me too.
So apparently R. Kelly who just recently got sentenced to 30 years in prison.
Incarcerated
For 30 years in prison due to child sex trafficking charges. Keep in mind, this is not tax evasion. This is actually a crime that is full of victims. And he is apparently engaged to, I'm blanking on her name right now.
Jocelyn Savage. Ironic last name.
And, okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, apparently apparently her parents had no idea.
Well, it says here that R. Kelly is engaged to be married to one of his alleged victims. And
apparently Jocelyn Savage is one of his victims.
At least that's what she says in the letter to the judge. And her family, and the family says they have no idea. According to legal documents obtained by TMZ, Jocelyn revealed the engagement by writing, quote, "I'm Robert Kelly's fiance," in her correspondence with the federal judge right before Kelly was sentenced. The letter which she wrote asking the judge for a lenient sentence doesn't say when they got engaged. So
she's saying, I'm not the victim, and R. Kelly is an amazing person, and she claims he always, I'm quoting from the story here, she claims he always made sure her needs were met as well as any other women he was with. Are you sure about that? I feel like I feel like I would need one of those big old Wikipedia style citation needed sections on after that sentence, because I mean I've seen self hatred here, but this is this is beyond Stockholm syndrome. I mean I don't get it. It's like,
Wait,
what?
Stockholm syndrome is the one where you've been so emotionally scarred by it.
You come to identify with your captors.
That's what I mean. Yeah, like you're so emotionally scarred by like your attacker that
you form a weird kind of attachment to it. And you know what? That's the insidious part of what he did. Because
I just don't know what to say here. Like, this is just
because apparently her parents have no idea what happened, and they have no idea what the hell is happening with her. And I do feel, believe me, all my sympathies go to them, because God, that must be tough. But
wait a minute. It also says that according to Gerald Griggs, the attorney for Savage's parents, tells us he finds it odd Savage didn't testify about it under oath and instead slipped it into the letter submitted to the court. So she tried to really sneak it in there.
Tried to really sneak it in under the wire, as if that was going to A, change anything about the sentencing, or B, make him look better somehow.
Well, wait.
It really doesn't.
It says Savage's family, quote, strongly doubts the engagement story and are wishing to reconnect with her to get the full story.
Yeah, this is pretty rough situation. If anything, it makes R. Kelly look even more of a monster than he does now, because it's hard not to seem like this woman is clearly been brainwashed by this guy.
I mean, they're not. First of all, they're going to feel bad for her. It's never going to. People, you would think the court of public opinion.
Yeah, you're never going to get the public to turn against the court and be on R. Kelly's side. Okay, all of a sudden,
people are going to feel bad for her and say like, oh, like you said, Stockholm syndrome, like
Stockholm syndrome.
But I don't know. Like this just makes it look worse for him in a sense.
Yeah, he brainwashed some of these women. He brainwashed some of these women into believing that they needed him.
Which is bizarre.
And it's not just bizarre; it's awful.
No, I'm just saying, like,
because it's not just molestation, it's not just rape, it's not just sex trafficking. It's abuse.
It's all. Let's just put it
horrible abuse.
It's all 3 in 1, basically.
It's all 3 in 1, and I mean,
what's so insane about this case? First of all, how big he was, his name.
Yeah, how big he was, how big. Because if you weren't, of age in the 90s, R. Kelly was fucking everywhere.
His name was in lights. He was on TV. He was
on TV. He was on the radio. The Space Jam soundtrack turned him into a fucking superstar.
He had so much power that he was getting away with all this stuff behind the scenes.
There were first graders people that I went to elementary school with that would sing his songs in homeroom.
That's bad. That's bad.
Granted that comes off a little differently knowing what we know now, but it just illustrates the fall. It just illustrates the fall from grace. What it does. You
know how they say, like, when big names is like the rise and fall of such and such when they do them on TV?
Yeah, it's not just a fall, it's a faceplant.
Like, you're going to see a documentary, I bet, come out on R. Kelly in the next couple of years, like on the rise and fall of who he was.
Yeah, you're gonna see somebody like Daniel Kaluuya play him in a biopic or something.
Oh, jeez.
And then he's gonna win 11 Oscars for it.
Oh God. I mean, we're gonna see. What's his name from ABC? Who does the network news over there? David Muir.
Muir.
You're gonna see David Muir like show up at the prison where R. Kelly is and do like an investigative interview.
Like, yeah, I don't think we need to humanize this guy anymore.
I don't know. It's bizarre. I first found out about this a couple of days ago. This about him being engaged. Well, allegedly being engaged, if that's a thing, allegedly. But I don't know. I'm glad he's gone. And
like I said, I really hope whoever that woman is, that she gets some help.
She doesn't just need help. She needs a whole life change.
Moving on.
All right. So from bizarre to even more bizarre, Olympian Kim Glass, former Olympian, I think, Kim Glass, attacked by a homeless man. Now, in New York, where we are, this is a major problem. We're seeing like homeless attacks on people.
Yeah, especially on the subways. It's like every other story that the Post runs with is innocent bystander attacked by crazy homeless guy pushed onto railroad tracks like it's an old timey Western serial.
I mean, like her eye, like I'm looking at the pictures, like it was like beat up shut.
Yeah, because apparently this guy accosted her with a metal bat or a metal pipe.
Now, how the hell did he get a metal pipe?
This was in Los Angeles, though, wasn't it?
Yes, it was in LA.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know why I keep saying that. You got to stop me every time I do that. But this is not, I don't, because in stories like this, I'm in the unique position where I don't feel like, apparently that guy had problems and throwing him in jail isn't really going to help.
Okay, but he assaulted her.
Yes, he assaulted her. But it really does seem like this guy, our country already doesn't give a shit about the homeless anyway. So
yeah, but you're telling me that beating someone up is not a problem?
Yeah, you arrest him, but after you arrest him, you immediately get him off the streets and into a treatment program.
Right, but when you commit a crime, you're going to jail.
This doesn't happen without many people throughout the system failing him.
Well, in New York,
whether this guy was off his meds or
well, he's 51 years old.
For whatever reason, or he's got a record. I really feel like actually helping homeless people and not just waiting for somebody to get beat up or killed.
Yeah, but you got to be careful that they're not dangerous. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's about your own personal safety, but again, you need to make sure that doesn't happen by making sure people don't become homeless in the first place, or making sure people are properly taken care of.
Well,
people with mental issues are given the proper treatment, because it's obvious that they literally don't give a shit about you if you are poor enough.
You could thank a certain 80-year-old woman who's in the White House who doesn't give a shit about this.
Which one?
Pelosi.
Oh,
because Pelosi's too busy being rich to realize people are homeless.
It's a bipartisan failure. Believe me.
I mean, her husband, who keeps getting in trouble with the stock with the SEC for stock tips.
It's not just Nancy Pelosi though.
No, but
she ain't helping.
But Pelosi's from California. It's
and she ain't helping. But this is, believe me, this is a bipartisan failure.
No. This is a failure across the U.S. Homelessness is up since COVID took over.
Yeah, and you would think people would actually think that the solution to this is, you know what, maybe making people not homeless would be a step in the right direction. No, just shove them in a shelter somewhere or put them in a lockup. The problem is I see too many homeless people. The problem is not there are too many homeless people. Instead, I see them. They see that as the problem.
The worst part,
they're in front of me in my space, touching my stuff.
The worst part is, and I'll give you an example. When I was going back and forth to the city, and that's the New York City, just in case people don't know what I'm talking about. That, and I used to tell Nick this all the time when I went back and forth on the trains and the subways. There were homeless people everywhere. Inside a Penn Station, excuse me, inside the subways. And you see the massive issues we're having in New York right now where people are pushing people into the subways. Those are partially mentally
ill people.
Mentally ill people that are homeless because they don't know any better.
Or they got nowhere else to go because the state either can't take them or won't take them for some strange reason.
Well, look what's happening in the jails, in the system, though. People who are committing crimes are getting into jail and getting right back out.
and it's not like it's not like jailing them for any extended length of time is actually going to help stem the problem.
No, of course not. And this used to be an issue they talked about at my job all the time on the radio station. And I'm like, well, if you're going to keep jailing people and then they're going to get out like 12 hours later, 24 hours later, what was the point?
It's a waste of time and resources. What's more important is to stop people from becoming homeless in the first place, right? Or
Well, yeah.
actually treating people that have mental illness.
Well, the problem is,
and not just giving them a pat on the back and shoving them out the door.
the problem is the people who are in the White House have too much money, so they don't know any better.
The people that are in the people that are in government.
That's what I mean. Yeah. But when you have people like Pelosi who are worth $220 million, and they're basically going on Jimmy Kimmel's show and showing off their freezer with all their fancy ice cream in it. I'm sure you remember when we did that story a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember.
When you're doing that, how am I supposed to take you seriously as someone in the White House?
You can't. That's the thing.
So, I don't know. But long story short, she shouldn't have gotten attacked. She was just out with her friends eating at a restaurant and gets attacked walking out.
Exactly. But again, this is the kind of thing that should not happen. I hate to sound all lefty here, but this is a systemic issue.
It's a big issue.
This is a systemic issue that people need to fix.
I don't know. All right, let's move on to, well, since we were talking about political issues, but more controversial issues. Sarah found this story. I thought it was interesting, actually, our intern. 911 dispatcher who refused to send an ambulance to a bleeding woman unless she agreed to go to the hospital. Now, Nick, I was asking you before we started doing the show. Now, I know, I won't say what you did, but you were telling me what you did. Like, I worked in a certain segment of healthcare, and I wasn't a 911 dispatcher, but so before I get to that, we need to explain what happened. All right. So a 911 dispatcher, well, mother and her grandmother. The mother was calling because I think the grandmother was bleeding out of the rectum area.
Yeah, it's in Western Pennsylvania. So a 56-year-old mother was jaundiced, incoherent, and bleeding from the rectum, according to the story. And apparently the 911 dispatcher told her bluntly that no emergency services such as an ambulance would be provided because it would be a, quote, waste of resources. So she just refused. They just refused to send an ambulance because unless her mother had verbally indicated that she'd go to the hospital.
So then why didn't you say it then? If you're in such an emergency situation, just say go to the hospital.
But she didn't even say if they said anything at all.
No. First of all, the 911 dispatcher.
Because if she had said no, but she didn't even say no. They didn't even send somebody at all and say, it's a waste.
Now, apparently this happened in July of 2020, and now he's being charged with involuntary manslaughter.
But which leads me to my job, though. If we knew when we were on the phone with people, if they couldn't breathe or they'd passed out, we were obligated to call 911 and have an ambulance sent out.
It wasn't a choice. It wasn't a choice. It was a mandatory action.
It wasn't a choice. It was a mandatory thing. It's a waste of resources. What the fuck you talking about, waste of resources?
I mean, I understand from a standpoint that sometimes when people get a scratch on their arm, they'll call 911, and that's technically a waste of resources.
Yeah, it's frivolous things are a waste of resources. But being jaundiced, incoherent, and bleeding from the rectum?
No, that's not.
That doesn't seem to me like something you would just make up.
No, that's almost like a body failure, almost. Like,
I can't even.
But just, I don't know. This is odd, and now they're over 2 years later, or almost 2 years later.
And we're just hearing about this now?
Well, no, he just got charged.
Yeah, but this is when the story was first published. 2 years later.
It makes no sense.
It makes little to no sense that it would have been the dispatcher's call to send it. The training would have said, you can decide whether to send an ambulance or not. It's like, clearly this woman had something wrong with her, and you were obligated to do something to help her.
See, I give health workers a lot of credit.
Whether she would have survived or not, you need to send a fucking ambulance.
Because at least you can say, like, something was done. At least if you sent...
Yeah.
Now, see, I give health workers, especially during COVID, a lot of credit. The ones who, and I'm not talking about the ones who just sit there necessarily, like, taking calls. I'm talking about the ones who have to deal with 911 and have to deal with making a split decision on the spot to figure out what needs to be done. Because that's tough work.
It's tough to do. And you know what? You need to be able to have nerves of steel and a stomach of steel to deal with it. But you need to be able to make these right decisions. You can't just say, it's a waste of resources.
Well,
you need to be able to make these calls because it is literally a matter of life and death.
But that's relative, what you consider waste of resources, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I would consider bleeding out of the rectum and losing blood not a waste of resources.
Jaundiced and being incoherent. I would say that warrants a trip to the hospital, but I'm no medical doctor, nor do I play one on TV.
So apparently they filed a lawsuit, and they're saying Price had no authority by statute or otherwise to superciliously? Is that how you say that? Superciliously deny services to Kronk or Tischel, the lawsuit argues. Now, you had to go through a lawsuit to do that? You're telling me that the 911 services didn't say that?
And technically, the entire county should be like the entire the emergency department in the entire county should be held account for it. Because if they didn't know, if they knew and told him to tell her to not, we weren't going to send an ambulance, then what the hell was this even for?
See,
what the hell are you even there for?
The one statement I don't agree with here, and because this is a fallacy of a predetermined outcome, one of these quotes, I believe in my heart that my mother would still be alive if it would have sent an ambulance. Now, I don't know if she can prove that. You can't prove that, right?
No, you can't prove that.
But she's making that part of the lawsuit, though. That's going to... You know how much evidence you would need to prove that?
Well, if you could get a doctor saying that, if she'd gotten prompter medical attention, then she would have lived, then it would have been a then that can make a difference in the case.
But I'm just saying that's a major statement to prove. Like, you would need the records from that day, how long it took, how long he refused. You would need a lot of records to back that up. Trust me, this is bad. Being a 911 dispatcher is not for the faint compli, if you know what I mean.
It's not for the faint-hearted, you mean?
Whatever. My point is that you need to have nerves of steel.
Yeah, I said.
And now they're saying 2 years later, in Greene County, Pennsylvania, officials have charged Price with involuntary manslaughter, for which the maximum penalty is $10,000 fine along with 5 years in prison. I don't know. What do you do here?
Yeah, I mean, I would give it to them, but you know what? It's because of everything they went to. But considering our screwed up legal system, there's it could go either way.
Yeah, I don't. This is not going to end good, I don't think. All right, let's move on. Let's go flying, shall we? Air Canada passenger who deliberately took only a carry-on to avoid luggage chaos says she was forced to check bag only to go missing. Now,
she went missing or the bag went missing?
No, the bag went missing.
So
this is bizarre. Now, you and we've been in airports a lot.
I haven't been in airports in about. I haven't flown a plane and flown on a plane. Well, of course, I've never flown a plane, but yeah, sometimes I like to get loaded and just sneak onto the airport and just see if I could take a Cessna for.
Don't say that.
Pilot's license? I don't need a fucking pilot license. I'm my own pilot's license. I feel the need for speed. But I haven't flown on a plane since probably 10
3 years? Oh, wait, what?
It's probably been 10 years since I've actually flown on a plane.
Wait, really?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
So I am not as well versed in the intricacies, let's call them, of air travel as you might be.
Oh, well, I've been doing the MLB stadium tour stuff, so I've been going around the country to different places. It's interesting to see the amount of luggage that goes through airports. I'm surprised a lot more luggage isn't lost.
Yes, and I know, look, I know it's terrible. I know luggage is terrible. But you know what? If you're only depending on a carry-on and then you lose that carry-on, how could you? It's like, this is why you need luggage.
But wait a minute. It says here an Air Canada flyer told Insider she didn't check a bag due to disruption at airports. She told Insider the airline made her check her carry-on, and then they lost the bag.
Well, then that's the fault of the airport.
It says the woman's story is one of hundreds in the summer of 2022 amid travel chaos around the world. Now, I'm sure you've seen the news, Nick, where airlines can't even get the amount of pilots needed necessary to fly planes. It's crazy. And they're saying it's going to get worse.
It is going to get worse because, there's a shortage of people because of COVID. And we're all pretending that it's not because of COVID, even though it's like there's this airline crisis, and nobody seems to be noticing what the actual problem is. It's like, oh well, it could be this, it could be that. No, it's COVID. They're all sick. They can't go to work.
What's even freakier, it says she later realized the bag was missing after waiting at the luggage carousel in Barcelona for 2 hours. 2 hours.
See, this is why, you know what? If you're going to go somewhere, don't fly.
I just don't know. It says she also called Air Canada 7 or 8 times and got nowhere. That sounds about right.
Sounds about right. Yep.
I don't know. I mean, I don't love airports. Airports are weird. And then just trying to get through all the securities and the baggage claims and just dumb things happen in airports. I don't know. I do want to go to California because I was thinking about making one of those trips to try to do as many stadiums in California as possible, in a week.
I would like to visit California, but you know what? The fact that it's God's Etch a Sketch is essentially, the airquake problem kind of scares the piss out of me.
I don't know, but all right, let's move on to a part 2. More airport, more flying. American Airlines passengers told to get off the plane after a 5-hour delay because the crew had to go off duty.
And this is the other part of the story where there's a staffing shortage because of COVID. Which, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, if this is pretty much everybody's nightmare scenario when you're in an airport, right? This is the worst case scenario that you can think of.
But wait a minute. It says an American Airlines customer said passengers had to leave after the pilot said they had timed out.
This is, if people keep getting angrier and angrier about this is going to turn into the plot of Die Hard 2.
Wait a minute. It says here, and this is the worst part. She said the airline did not offer any form of compensation.
No form of compensation, no hotel room, no tickets to see if we can get you on another flight. No, just, nope, sorry, break time.
I mean,
which, again, it's mandated in the union, but I don't have a problem with the union, but hire more pilots.
I feel like unions in certain aspects fuck up things. No, but sometimes unions fuck up things, especially if you're in the middle of doing something and then all of a sudden they're like, time's up, sorry, can't go any further.
Yes, I understand but this is just a clusterfuck of scheduling. This
Right,
is a clusterfuck of scheduling and
but
bad
wait a
planning
minute.
on the airline. Yeah.
But wait a minute. Your flight was delayed, so technically, you should have to fly the flight if you're already in the middle of it. Like, seriously. Like, you're telling me that because their time was up, now they have to get off the plane?
Again, that's just bad scheduling. That's what that is.
I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, airports are a clusterfuck since COVID.
Yes, which is my point. But you know what? Fixing this would paying the pilots paying the crew members that you have more money, and paying them and hiring more of them, because that's the only way you're going to get past the staffing shortage. You can't just wait it out.
Wait a minute. Once the plane was ready, just 20 minutes after boarding, the pilot asked all the passengers to leave the aircraft because, quote, the crew has timed out and couldn't fly. And then I think this is one of the patrons who flew. We all deplaned and started scrambling to see if we could find other flights. Are you kidding me? You didn't find them other flights?
Morons.
So
morons.
Wait a minute. It was bad enough that the pilots have to go on their little break because they ran out of time and you had to deplane. But you couldn't find them another flight because you fucked them over?
Exactly. You screwed them over. So therefore you're on the hook. Well, you should be on the hook.
It says replacement pilots were found and the original cabin were also able to fly. It transpired. But this is bizarre. Airports are terrible. All right, one last story here, and we're going to end on a funny note. Chuck Norris's grandson kicked off Jonas Brothers' new reality show for cheating.
So apparently, this is claimed. The show is called Claim to Fame.
Yes.
So apparently the premise of Claim to Fame is you get a bunch of people who are related to famous people on the show, and the panelist has to guess who they're related to. So one of the people they got was one Maxwell Norris. Now, if the last name is familiar enough to you, he is the grandson of 70s and 80s action star and 2000s internet meme come to life, Chuck Norris. And apparently Maxwell Norris was cheating on the show by using a smuggled cell phone that was hidden under a comforter. To which Kevin Jonas actually had to stop the show and kick him off.
We're talking about a reality show, cheating on a reality show? Come on.
You couldn't write that shit, though.
It's a reality show.
It's like a Mad Lib story come to life. Hey, Chuck Norris's grandson got kicked off a TV game show by Kevin Jonas.
It's a reality show. Every reality show I know, cheating and suffering and secret keeping are part of reality TV, aren't they?
They are, but I mean, when you go on game shows, don't you have to give them your cell phone anyway?
Well, it's a reality show. Is it a game show or a reality show?
It's a game show.
But in the headline, it says new reality show. I'm reading the story. I guess. Oh, the saying contestants are not allowed to have
it's mystery contestants, so it's a game show. It's a reality game show.
Which is kind of an oxymoron because that makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense, but you know what? They'll put anything on TV nowadays.
Oh, I didn't even realize it airs on Mondays on ABC.
Which, I don't know if this is the bottom of the barrel, but they're certainly scraping near the lower three quarters of the...
No, I'm going to say something I haven't said in a while. You know what really is scraping the bottom of the barrel that's back on now? Come on. You know the show I don't like.
Family Feud?
No, I like Family Feud. Are you kidding me?
What?
Bachelorette.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see what they're doing? They have 2 bachelors this time. Not 1, 2.
We're not out of ideas. See? Another bachelor. See?
And also they have that stupid summer show that they do for the Bachelor, the one Bachelor in Love or whatever they call that.
Ladies and gentlemen, the moral of the story is if you're on a reality show or don't cheat. Seriously. It's just embarrassing for all parties involved.
I mean, you're Chuck Norris's what, grandson, you said?
Grandson.
I mean, wow.
I mean, the people our age know who Chuck Norris is because of the Chuck Norris facts. People my father's age know him because of Delta Force. People that are, Zoomers, Generation Z, they got no idea who the fuck Chuck Norris even is.
Oh, come on.
You know what, Nick? I will ask either Alex or Sarah. Do you know who Chuck Norris is?
Sarah might not know. Alex might.
You know what? If you can get a hold of Alex in the ask her, who is Chuck Norris? Do you know who Chuck Norris is?
Hey, I think she knew what the AOL dial-up was when you said that.
Yeah, so she seems fairly up on it, despite her young age. So
she's not young. You keep confusing that.
She's younger than us, so that means
she's younger than us. But yes, but who knows? But that'll do it for episode 38 of Beyond the Bench on the Empty the Bench podcast network. Follow us on social media on Twitter. Beyond the Bench 1 on Facebook and on Instagram at Beyond the Bench 1. Follow us across the Empty the Bench podcast network at ETB Network for us and other shows and some new shows coming at the end of the month, which I think you will really like.
Yes, you will.
MMA Outsiders. We are bringing UFC and MMA back.
Yes, it's a brainchild of our partner and co-creator Tom Albano and Zane
Bando. Yeah.
Zane Bando. So I'm sorry, I was blanking on his last name. But yeah, it's going to be a great show. We really hope you tune in for it. They worked really hard on it, and it's going to be a blast. It really is. And
then we have another show, Fruity Cereal, which I know Nick loves that name. Which is going to be, it's going to be like old traditional morning style radio in video form.
But for the LGBTQ community.
Well, along with other stuff as well.
And that's cool.
So, like, if you really like wacky entertainment, outside the box point of view in morning show style, you will
kind of like if the two of us hosted the Today Show.
Not for what they did before.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, without all the horrible allegations.
But it's more like Entertainment Tonight.
Yes, it is. So
think of it that way. But
make sure
but they're going to be uncensored. So
yeah, they're going to. Do we have a start date on that?
Well, you have MMA Outsiders and Fruity Cereal. One is the 25th, and one is the 27th. I think MMA Outsiders is the 25th, and I think Fruity Cereal is the 27th. I think.
Okay, so make sure you keep it tuned to our Twitter account and our other social media networks for all the updates on those shows and everything else. Because you know what? We're everywhere.
We're everywhere, so make sure you check everything out. And also, this episode is presented by Knack Bags as well, as I said earlier.
Make sure you go to knackbags.com and use our offer code as is scrolling down on the bottom of the screen to get your Knack bag, your Knack sling bag, or your regular size industrial strength Knack bag, as Mr. Nick Morgasen is holding right there in his hands, and you'll get free shipping on it because everybody loves that, right?
It's a one-bag life, too.
And you go to knackbags.com and get yours today.
So for Nick Fodera, I'm Nick Morgasen. This has been episode 38. With all the shenanigans we dealt with this week, we will see you next week, everybody.
Good night, everybody. See you back on the bench.